Dr. Shabir, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
It's my pleasure to be on.
Dr. Shabir, how does the ordinary person approach hadith? How do they decide which ones are the right ones to use and which ones are not the best ones to use in their lives?
Well, generally, the average person does not need to go to the major books of hadith and make this decision for themselves. This decision is often made by Muslim scholars who select from the hadiths, from the hadith collections, what they're going to present, let's say, in a Friday sermon or in a public speech, or what they're going to present in a piece of writing dealing with various topics. So if one wants to know how to pray, one gets a handbook on prayer, and that handbook will include some mention of some hadiths, but mainly focus on the procedure of prayer. Some of the hadiths will illustrate or emphasize some of these procedures and serve as an authentic background for these procedures. But the average Muslim will know of the hadith from this context and doesn't need to go searching out the hadith for himself or herself.
Mm-hmm. So how do you decide, because, how do you decide what a scholar is? Because someone who gives a khutbah or, a sermon on Friday is not necessarily a scholar, and they might actually end up picking hadiths out of a hadith book and not necessarily understanding the context, what was going on at the time, whether the Prophet was speaking to just one particular person based on that person's circumstance, whether the Prophet was joking, whether he was sarcastic. They might not even get that.
Yes. So this is where systematic theology comes in, where a Muslim scholar would study the entire Quran, would study the life example of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, know something about his whole seerah or his biography, to know where he lived, where he walked, what were the circumstances on the ground, what were the various tribes that he interacted with, the various persons that he dealt with, who was who on the ground. And they would also study the hadith corpuses as a whole, so they would have a sense of where one fits within that whole and within how it relates to the Quran, how it relates to the life example of the Prophet, peace be upon him. The average Muslim may not have all of this information, and so if one gets one hadith in isolation and tries to make sense of it, it may actually be wildly misunderstood because it is being understood out of the proper context.
So are there particular books that an individual can go to? You mentioned some scholarly books.
Yeah, if one wants to get a better understanding of the hadith today, like, I'm not so much getting the few snippets that are included in the manuals for prayer and so on, one wants to approach the study of the hadith out of curiosity, because while I've said that the average Muslim does not need to do that, in terms of like defining the usual Muslim practice, I mean, let me put it a different way, that the average Muslim has been getting by for a long time without needing to go to the hadith corpuses. But now the situation has changed a lot in that, first of all, we're a very literate generation now, and Muslims are curious. They want to know. They want to read the Quran themselves. They want to read the books of hadith themselves. And we cannot say, no, this is taboo. You can't go to these books. It's available. You can read these books and you can find this information for yourself. And the other aspect of this is that non-Muslims and more so Islamophobes will be selecting some problematic hadiths, which they will throw out at Muslims. Typically, a Muslim will get an email saying something like, "Hi, Ahmed, glad we met. And by the way, I came across some hadiths which are puzzling to me, and I thought you might be able to explain these to me. Can you, tell me what these mean?"
We get them on the comment section of our YouTube channel.
You get that too, right? So there are Islamophobes out there who are trading in this kind of information. Once this information is thrown at the average Muslim, especially the Muslim youth, naturally answers need to be given. The Muslim youth themselves need to understand this for themselves, even if they don't want to answer anybody else. But they need to have a satisfaction internally that they understand what their religion entails for them.
So what do you think a Muslim should do? Let's say they see a hadith, let's say they get sick and then see a hadith about using black seed, for example. Should they apply that hadith in their lives?
Well, if it looks benign, then it's not going to harm anybody. It looks, nobody says black seed is harmful for you, especially used in moderation. Then there's no harm in using it and praying to God for the cure, because all cure comes from God. But if you find one that, says something something very fantastic, like, black seed is going to be a cure for everything except death. Now, you know that somebody has exaggerated the matter here. The Prophet, peace be upon him, being a sage person in his time, one of the wisest persons around, naturally was approached by people if they had ailments and they wanted to know how to cure the ailments, and he gave them some simple prescriptions, which would have been known at the time. But this is not necessarily part of the revelation that God gave to him, according to Ibn Khaldun, one of our great scholars from the Middle Ages. So, people used that cure and they told each other, and came to be recorded in the Hadith book. But as people told and retold this information, they exaggerated it. And then they started to say that black seed is the cure for everything except death. So you wouldn't use that as if, the Prophet, peace be upon him, actually said that. Otherwise, you might find yourself not wanting to apply other cures because you think you have the one cure-all here, and that could be bad for your health and the health of the community around you.
Thank you for that, Dr. Shabir.
You're welcome. Look, Safiya, my inbox is full. I have questions from our viewers.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
Your questions are coming out of my ears.
That's why we've got something really exciting planned for you, a YouTube Live Q&A. You can join us live, and Dr. Shabir will answer your questions as they come in.
This event will kick off our special Ramadan programming as well as our fundraising campaign.
It's all happening on Sunday, April 4th at 12 p.m. Eastern on our YouTube channel, Quran Speaks.
And that's right before Ramadan. I can't wait to see what questions we'll get.
Me too. It'll be fun to chat with you in real time.
Subscribe and turn on your notifications so that you don't miss this event.